All right, Kara, next week we have something very exciting for me. Do you know what it is?
Something about movies, horror movies?
Close. A little more nerdy than that. We have Joseph Laycock coming on. He is an assistant professor of religious studies at Texas State University, and he wrote a book. Let me get the entire title here. Dangerous Games, What the Moral Panic Over Role-Playing Games Says About Play, Religion, and Imagined Worlds.
Oh, yes.
So I grew up as a D&D nerd.
In like the 80s, right?
Yeah, I
80s
would say
and 90s.
Yeah. No, it was the 80s. Yeah, by the 90s, I was interested in ladies.
What?
You know, the two don't really go together, or at least they didn't at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
that's funny because most of the people I play D&D with now are girls.
Oh yeah,
so.
At the time, yeah.
At the time, no, it was.
Yeah, it was a sausage fest, man. At the time,
yeah.
There was no ladies in the group. So yeah, a lot of D&D. I would wear a trench coat, and I had a briefcase, and I would carry my D&D books in it. Jared's like rubbing his head because he's like,
right.
So trench coat, briefcase, D&D books.
So you were
painting
the big man on
figures.
campus.
Yeah, totally, man. Coolest, you know.
Yeah.
I would take a break, once a week for chess club.
I mean, trench coats are cool. Briefcases are cool. What's the issue?
Chess club, cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always been interesting to me that Dungeons and Dragons had this, and I realize this isn't just about Dungeons and Dragons. Now we're talking about online games. We're talking about all sorts of stuff,
yeah.
LARPers, whatever. But it's always been interesting to me that Dungeons and Dragons was so associated with like devil worship and like bad stuff going on. Because my group of friends were like, half of them were asthmatic. The other half, their moms like didn't let them out of the house. This really sort of gave me a nerdy place to go where I wasn't getting in trouble. I was really doing the opposite. We were renting out the pizza party room at our local Shakey's or whatever, so that we could have a 8-hour D&D game fest going on in there.
Do you know where your kids are?
Yeah.
They're doing recreational math.
Right. Yeah, totally. Granted.
Because like advanced D&D in the 80s, it's not really even like this now. There's newer, streamlined editions that are, frankly, much more fun to play. But back then, it was like,
that was kind of the fun of it back then was...
Oh, sure.
That...
I've played advanced D&D.
You were building your character. Hey, I started before it was advanced.
Wow, okay.
So, I mean, I've been in there for quite some time,
But it was terrible. It was just like,
it was awesome.
I want to scale a rope. It's like, okay, let's flip through this massive source book to find the table on rope scaling.
Oh.
And like roll 2 D100s and locate the correct thing.
That was up to the dungeon master. A lot of the time, that stuff was not addressed.
Okay.
It wasn't so random. It wasn't
so you just didn't enforce the rules.
Well, no, those weren't the rules. Those were appendices added on, and they didn't have to be used.
Okay,
that's not necessarily the way that it went.
All right.
Shows what you know.
Yeah, it does show what I know.
You think the whole thing was like a math equation about walking through the bushes in a game of Pokemon. But that's not the deal, man. You're telling a story, man. You're narrating.
Well, that's how I do it, obviously. But like, I've run through those source books. They're ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, they put it all in there because if there was a struggle, then they would apply it. Like if there was something at the end of the rope that they didn't necessarily want you to get to, they might... Your dexterity might come in as a factor at that point, but okay. Jared just put up a sign saying that we're getting off topic.
I forget what the topic was.
The topic is Joseph Laycock is coming on the show to talk about the influence that these games have had on society. And I'm assuming that he's calling the book Dangerous Games in a
reference to that.
Yeah. I assume that he's going to basically say that it wasn't a terrible place, but maybe it was. Maybe Maybe I don't know what's going on.
Maybe he'll come on to tell us that D&D encourages Satanism.
Well, it might have. There was a time or two that we went out and tried to light some stuff on fire, but we never killed anything small and hairy.
Right.
Yeah.
You just provided a gateway through which Lucifer can access this world.
Except for the 12-year-old neighbor kid, but I mean, he had it coming.
Yeah. He's only 12. It's like you hadn't invested that many years into him.
Totally. Yeah, he already had all the good ones.
Yeah.
All right, you're listening to Radio Wasteland. So next week, we're having Assistant Professor of Religious Studies at Texas State University, Joseph Laycock, on to talk about his book, Dangerous Games, what the moral panic over role-playing games says about play, religion, and imagined worlds. Come check us out.